been too long. It's time. Okay, I flipped the car over and we're just getting a good look at the rot that's in here. Now I'm going to be replacing the outer skin of this. I'm not too worried about what's going on in the back here. We'll just plate this off. Obviously remove what's there and plate it off. Now I see a lot of guys to come down and actually replace out this whole panel there because that's just the way it comes from factory. I don't want to do that. My plate doesn't have this detail here. I do have a little dent here. So what I'm going to start with is by trying to remove off as much of the rot first. See if we can press that little dent out and weld in the new one to try and keep as little new plate as possible. Just no need to replace it, it's not rotten. So we'll start with that. This will allow me to get into this area here. Get this all cleared off. I'm going to remove this strip the whole way down. And then we can put on like a 260 or 240Z style sleek bumper on the back of this. It'll look quite nice. A lot of guys will actually flush the sod off. It is kind of nice, but it takes away from the genuine look of the car. So I think I'll be pushing forward towards having a bumper on it. So I haven't been too good at this so far, so I'm going to try and see if I can clean up my act a little bit. We have spot welds all along here, so we're going to try and bore them through. We'll have a few along here as well. And what we want to do is take off this outside plate and leave this inside supporting plate here, which will give me a perfect way of aligning the whole back together again. Then when I have this all removed, probably, I can't imagine it being any further than down to there. I'll be able to see what needs to be done to this inside plate in here as well. So we'll just start by drilling out some of these spot welds and see how we get on. Just for a bit of extra control, we're going to use one of these sand mopping discs with the grinder. We're just going to basically pare back the top layer of the rotten bit of metal first. Alright, so we've peeled back our material, so we're good and solid metal on the outside now, which is perfect. This is what I want to see. The inside is worse than I was expecting. Always hiding little secrets, these Datsuns. So up around here seems to be quite solid. I need to get back in behind here, and I really want to kind of keep this plate intact if I can, because it's actually in relatively good condition. So I may need to bore out here. You can see it's quite a substantial flange in the back of this. That possibly needs to be replaced. And a lot of this needs to be replaced, unfortunately. Extra work I was hoping to get away without doing. So I think I'm going to try and see if I can get access underneath here, and then we'll know exactly what to do if we're going to be replacing all of this or not. Let's go for it. So I didn't record attacking this corner here because it was probably the boring 30 minutes of my life. I don't have the proper tools as usual. So I tried to clean off this whole area, which had two layers of spot welded steel in there. And I had to take it off with the angle grinder. I left this little tab here just so I can keep the line of the original bodywork. But this will be probably going. I think the next thing is to line up the new plate and get the exact cut line measured up down here. So we'll get that on next. What we're trying to do now is pencil up roughly the piece that we need. So what I did was I just put that in there. Just make sure I can see. And I've gone down about an inch further here. And likewise, over here, I have a mark there, which is up a lot higher, and I've marked here. And I just kind of scribble my way around there. And now what I'm going to do is just join this. And there. And that's the piece I'm going to use. So, rough and ready, chop it off, and then we'll be able to squeeze it on there and do a finer cut then closer to this line. When we have this line cut here, we're probably going to pick a line that doesn't interfere with anything on this here, and then we're going to trim this back to match it. It's easier cut the body to match your plate than cutting the plate to match your body, because this will sit on the outside. So we'll give it a shot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark a line here and just measure the distance up to my cut and get it up pretty close, and then that will actually be my actual cut. So nice and simple, and a cheap old pen. It's going to let us know how much of an overlap we have back there. This is the detail here I wanted to keep on the car, as you can see. And this is the little dent. Let's see if it can pop back out. We'll get out fairly close to where it's supposed to be. So we'll release this and see how much of an overlap we have. Massive overlap, so that's good. So I'm going to go and trim this back pretty close to where we want it, but I'll do a nice straight edge on it this time. And that'll be our final location where we do our final cut. So I've marked back the line here minus 10 mil. Okay, so basically there should be about 10 mil overlap. So we have a nice line just along there. I'm going to use this plate now and I'm going to mark a line here and I'm going to cut that. So these two will butt up against each other. And then the little trim that I have here from the previous cut, I might try and see if I can slot that down behind it, so that basically it'll be a butt weld, but it'll be a backing plate behind it as well. So we'll just see if it's possible. I'm not too sure if it's going to work out. We'll give it a shot. Okay, I just popped it back on there. We clamped it roughly in one place. You can see it kind of splays out here, but that's just because the flex that's in the material. So I'd like to have a little gap all the way along so that the weld goes deep into it. You can imagine if we were to have that butted tight and you were to weld, the weld would just stay on the surface, and then when you grind it flat, you kind of lose all its strength. So by leaving a small gap there, you get the weld to fill that. And then you can grind it flush and you still have the weld actually in place, so it keeps its strength. And this is the backing plate, which is basically was the remains that was cut off there, and I have just basically trimmed it so that it fits into this area. So essentially it's going to go in here and fit it tight all the way along, and then when we put in our other plate, at least it's following the exact same contour that was actually originally on the plate. It'll help to keep it in location. And we'll do that all the way along. Now, let's put our attention over here. So we've got this plate here. I've literally just put it underneath this bit of bar stay and just bend it down over the edge of the bench. Use a G-clamp either side, so kind of worked out nice and square. So now I'm going to just get this, just start forming it into that shape all the way along here, and then eventually it'll just sit in nice and snug. I'll mark it out, cut it and replace it with this. Okay, so there is our part molded into the shape all down here. It's so nice and snug. Just at the back here, it starts kind of parting way. So I'm going to see if I can maybe do a split along here and allow it to kind of kick in a little bit before we go and do the final cut. But we're fairly close. Okay, so I trimmed in that corner. Obviously forgot to record it for you guys, but I basically just put a little trim, pressed down that guy, shaved off the edges and started welding it. And give it a quick grind back. So that's kind of follow that whole contour in there right to here. So we're pretty close at that. Now, next, it's this dirty corner here. I'm not definitely how I'm going to do it yet. But what I might do is I might put on that piece first, and that'll kind of let me know where I'm going next. Experimenting all the way, as always. Let's see. I think it's time to cut. So that's it, kind of left down into position. My shortcoming now is to kind of not realize that there was a bit of rot kind of gone up into the fold in there, which I didn't include in this piece. So I'm just going to have to kind of add in a 90 just along here. Kind of gives a good place for the place to cross over, and then weld this bad boy in. Not too bad for the first fit though. Here's our plate again. This metal and plate onto it here just to match up with the original, the way that was set up. Now, I was gambling on this. I didn't really measure it up. Fingers crossed. It looks pretty good. So the previous one actually had a gap like that as well. It's just where basically there's tack weld at the back and then there's a sealant put in there. We're looking pretty good. I think we get this clamped up and we get it tacked in. Good to go. So interior weld is in place. So I need to kind of define where that location is. The only way you can do that is make sure that the outer plate matches up with it. Flush here. You can see there's an extra step out on the new plate, so we can just basically trim that back, match the previous line. Likewise, my new plate out here stepped out a bit, so once we're welded together, we just trim that back. Two of them will be flush. These throws off nicely once we press them together. I think I have a little bit of an extra point on my cut plate here, so I'll just round that off. It's not too bad. I am blanking these holes here, I don't like them. We're just going to flush that off, and then as we can see, our outer plate's lined up nicely. So now that we have this all located, we can actually go back in here and do that filler plate. But the first thing I need is the filler plate between the one I just put in onto the frame of the car here. Tap out a small touch here, but everything is quite good. Around the back. You can see where the plate has curved up now, which is fine. You can imagine it'll be seam sealer put along this joint here and all the way along, so that's all fine. And it's fitting nice and snug. So this will need one last clean up. We'll give it a spray weld through primer, leave it sit for a while. This is not welded on this side, this is just basically welded from the far side, but make sure the weld goes the whole way through it. You can see it all the way up there, and it's a good single point weld. It's showing our little joint here, so just clean off all the old material off that, give it a good spray from the inside, so it's quite a solid little job now. And you can see that kind of follows the original contour, except for this little corner. Stop a little bit there, but that's going to have seam sealer over it, so no big loss. But definitely the whole contour of the cannon is respected anyway. So we were backing plate in, and now we have our outer skin ready to go on. So when we weld here, we've got this backing plate to support the weld, so we can really load it on. So I'm going to start off by flushing this corner here and welding it, and then start working my way along it, and fingers crossed it'll work out. There you go. That is the outside skin welded up. So you can see here that just a little bit of evidence that the weld is there. Pretty good, pretty tasty. A little bit of filler on top of that. Our line here is relatively good. We can step that out, and then we're just going to drill a few little spot weld holes here and get that clamped together to the outside plate. And then the other side looks like so. So we'll get these spot welds done next. Difficult to see, but we did 3 spot welds in the back here. That basically puts this inner plate that we just made here onto the outer plate, and this one that's in the middle, which is our new outer skin, is tacked from the outside, so the whole lot's sandwiched together. So it's a pretty sweet job. Okay, that is a wrap. So I just made sure we had a nice little run in here at the 2 edges, which is perfect. Same down along here, all the way around. A little curve is respected in there with our 3 little spot welds. Spot welds all across the top, and then on the back here. This will be minimal amount of filler needed, because this has really kind of worked its planes quite well. That's it. That is the rear lower quarter panel complete, including the inner side, and we're going to get this filled now and get this corner primed. Happy days. Alright folks, next episode we are attending to the last piece of rust that's on this car. It is the Swiss cheese dog leg that I have here. That's going to come off, and we're also going to examine this area, which is the back of the rocker here. It looks like the rust is going to come up here too. I have 2 panels for these, so we're good to go. So next week we are going to cut these out and get them replaced. Happy days. Alright folks, that's it for this week. All sorted here. As I said, we're going to move down and get the rust sorted out into this one next week. All the likes and subscribes, guys, really appreciate them sending my way there. It gives me a good bit of inspiration to kind of keep making good content for you guys. Listen, we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.